All right, so let's take a look at how we can use tools like ChatGPT to help us organize our student data, work more efficiently, and overall just have more free time to get other things done. So I have a class roster here from our demo school here. It's called Willow Glen College. You can see I have my class roster, which has student IDs, names, and some emails. So you may get a list like this, and maybe you need to reorganize the data. Maybe it's not in alphabetical order, as we can see here, and that's something that you would like to reorganize. Traditionally, you may use a tool like Microsoft Excel to reorganize this data, which can work really great, but sometimes the data is not available in Microsoft Excel format. As an example, this file is a PDF, which means it's frozen. It's more like an image than it is an actual file that we can edit, but we can use ChatGPT to review this data and overall just reorganize it and restructure it however we'd like. So I'm going to start by just pasting the data that we have here. And let's go ahead and start by just breaking this down, because the first thing I notice is that our students have their first names and their last names all in a single column. Maybe it would be more helpful to have these two in separate columns, but that sounds like a lot of work to do traditionally with Microsoft Excel. So we'll start with that. Please organize this data, or this class roster, we'll even say, into a table that has student ID, first name, last name, email. So right here, we are actually specifying exactly which columns we want in our file, in our table. And if you want it to even be more specific, you could. So we could say it has these columns. And then you could then from there, maybe use another semicolon. Perfect. And then we'll say, here is my class roster. And from here, I would just paste in that data. Now, you may notice that this is a little hard to read, but that's okay. At the end of the day, data is data. So when we send something like this to ChatGPT, although it may be hard for us to read and distinguish exactly where things start and finish, it's really easy for an AI model to parse through this data and break it down and reorganize it. So let's tap that send button. And right away, it's breaking down our data into new separate columns. Isn't that really cool? Perfect. So now we have all of our first names and last names in separate columns. We have our student ID over there, and we have our emails over here. Now, this is a great looking table already, but maybe we want it to take it one more step further. So rather than just organizing it into these columns, maybe we could also reorganize it like alphabetically. So let's reorganize this data alphabetically based on the students. Let's see, should we do first name or should we do last name? I guess we will go ahead and try last name. So again, we would just send our message. And let's take a look. Now, it did pretty good, but you'll notice there is at least one error that I'm noticing right away, and that's our guy, Finn Wallace here. W definitely does not come after F, and it doesn't come before K, but the rest of these look pretty decent. So this is, again, going to highlight a point here. AI can make mistakes, and it's up to you to call the AI out on its own mistakes. So rather than just accepting this, which again, for this particular demo, we could use our sheet like this, but I want perfection. So it's always great to double check the work that you're getting from an AI, whether it's a paper, a email, a class roster, whatever you're getting, again, always double check it. So before we get it exported as a CSV or a PDF, let's point out the mistakes that it made. I see a mistake. How does Finn Wallace come before Zoe Kim? And look at that. It says you're absolutely right. Kim should come before Wallace when sorted alphabetically by last name. That was an error in the previous table. Here is the corrected version of the roster sorted properly by last name. So let's double check this. We have our B, C, F, K, M, M, N, P, R, T, W. There's our guy Finn, Y, and Z. So that's pretty good. We now have our class roster quickly reorganized into student ID, first name, last name, email, and it's all alphabetically ordered. Again, we could have done this with Microsoft Excel, but when you're using an AI model as a tool, sometimes you may actually save a lot of time versus a traditional tool that you already know how to use. So this looks pretty good. And what's even better is that models like ChatGPT 4o can actually export our table here as a different file. So traditionally, you might just want to copy and paste this table. So we could copy this and maybe open Microsoft Excel and paste it in there. Or we could say, yes, please export this as a Microsoft Excel file. And ChatGPT supports many different file types, so I can't necessarily give you a list of every type of file that it supports, but you will see that common file types like this .xlxx, which is an Excel file, can be produced by ChatGPT. So let's go ahead and download our file. Perfect. And then from here, let's go ahead and take a look at our file. So we'll just double click and open it up. And let's see what we have here. Look at that. It opened right up in here in Excel. We can expand the columns. We can see our first names, our last names, and our emails. Everything is alphabetically ordered by last name. This looks really, really good. And so from here, I would take this data and continue working with it somewhere else. Maybe I need to upload it to a school system that allows me to populate my class with these students. Or maybe I just needed the file reorganized. Whatever your use case, again, we just used an AI model to organize and create a new file completely. This is how you would be using AI as a tool versus just as a chatbot. Washington is home to 3 official U.S. national parks, each with unique landscapes, ecosystems, and cultural significance. To help our students memorize and master all of these elements, we've actually created a Washington State National Park study guide. So if we scroll through here, you'll see that we have all 3 of our national parks, and we have some pretty interesting information about each one. But there's a catch. We haven't actually created the pop quiz that I would like my students to take when they finish studying this study guide. So let's take a look at how we can use a tool like ChatGPT to create a very simple pop quiz and have a little fun doing it. So the first thing I would do is uploading that PDF file. So we'll go ahead and add photos and files here. Here's our Washington National Parks study guide. And let's give our prompt something simple maybe. So we'll just say, please create a pop quiz based on this study guide. Whoops. And let's start there. We'll keep it really simple. And maybe even we'll add in a multiple choice pop quiz, because we could have, had something like fill in the blank or any other option, but I think in this example, we'd like to see multiple choice. So it's reading our documents, and right away it gives us back a pop quiz. Now, just like we mentioned earlier, you should always double check anything that's generated by AI. So although it looks like a great pop quiz, we have each one of our answers here, each one of our questions, everything looks pretty good. We should definitely double check and read this to make sure that it actually aligns with our study guide. But so far, things look pretty good. So we have 7 questions here. Maybe we'd like to extend it. So we'll say, I would like 10 questions, please. And so it should reformat our entire quiz here, but also include those extra questions that we need. So while it loads, let's take a look here. Which of the following is the tallest mountain in Washington State? And it looks like Mount Rainier. Perfect. All right, so we have all of our questions here. And what's great about this is it also includes some wrong answers. So there's things like what unique traits distinguishes Mount Rainier National Park, annual UFO festivals, underwater caves. Nope, it looks like active volcanoes and glaciers. Perfect. All right, so now that we have our quiz, there's probably one or two more things we could do here, but I think this is a pretty good place to start slash stop because we have exactly what we needed. So let's try asking, is there anything else you would add to make this quiz better, more fun, or more extensive, we'll say. And this can be a great way to find fun enhancements to make your quizzes and other content a little bit better for your students. So let's see what we have here. Include photos from the study guide. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Use 2 truths in a live format. That sounds pretty fun. Include a map question, add a bonus challenge. All right, and make it interactive, like a quiz, game show format, group activity, or Kahoot. And then we have some more extensive questions. So you can see how we could continue to use this as a tool to create quizzes and tests that are more fun, more engaging, and overall just really put the focus on our students and their learning styles rather than just giving them the same content from last year. For our next example, I've created a demo email chain between a principal and 2 professors who are organizing a fundraising event on a college campus. Now, I don't want to force you to read all of this. That's kind of the point of this demo, but I will go ahead and scroll through just to give you an idea. We've all been in the situation where we have a ton of emails and we definitely still need to catch up and read through all of these emails to even understand what to do next. But what if we could use AI to help us better, concisely understand exactly what the next things we need to do based on the emails we've already received? So again, this is a demo email thread. I didn't want to use real emails, but let's go ahead and copy this all. So we'll scroll. Okay, let's keep scrolling here. Again, it's supposed to be long. That's kind of the point, is we want something that you wouldn't necessarily have a ton of time to review. And then let's go ahead and start a new chat. And in this chat, we will give ChatGPT a very simple prompt here. So we will start by saying, please concisely summarize this email chain and provide clear next steps for me. I am one of the professors. And I didn't even read what the professors' names are, so let's actually paste this in here. And then we will be Professor Daniel. So I am Professor Daniel. And the reason I'm doing this is because if we don't give it the context as to who I am, then the email response or the concise summary that we'll receive may not be quite targeted at me and the things that I need to hear versus what Cynthia or the other Professor Mira needs to hear. So this looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and tap send. Wait, and before we do that, let's just review our prompt one more time. So please concisely summarize, this email chain and provide clear next steps for me. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good start here. Again, we could make this a lot more complicated, but we'll go ahead and just tap send. And so here we go. We have our summary of email chain fundraising event planning. All right, so again, pretty long, but a lot shorter than the long email chain that we had. So we can see progress here. Event location confirmed at Student Green. Great, activities are planned. We have some collaboration with student organizations. This sounds pretty good. We're exploring partnerships and sponsorships and QR donation methods. Pretty good. We've had some setbacks, so let's take a look here. So the original venue in the quad was unavailable. Okay, the art department may have limited capacity to contribute pieces. That's okay. Our donation processing route is unclear. Got it. And this is what we're really after here. Our next steps for me, Professor Daniel Reyes. So again, there's a lot going on here. We're organizing an entire event and I'm only one person. I am one piece of a very large event here. So let's see what I have to do. I need to submit a draft budget to Cynthia by the end of this week. Okay, that looks important. I need to finalize and distribute the student survey on study pods. Our goal is to hit 300 plus responses. We can coordinate with Foundation Office to confirm donation process setup. I need to reach out to communications for promotional materials and press outreach, follow up with Cynthia about introducing our council member Ortiz, and continue confirming student orgs and event logistics. I have a ton to do on my plate. It looks like ChatGPT is recommending a visual checklist or a calendar timeline of these next steps. Let's say, yes, do both, comma, and also write an email to the, we'll say communications for promotional materials and press outreach. And then, you know what, just for fun, and also create my follow-up email to Cynthia. All right, so we're really pushing it here. We're asking it for 2 or 3 things, but let's see what we can do. So again, it's going to analyze and take its time and really try to think about what we just asked it to do. And hopefully we'll get back some really good communications here. Look at this. So we have a timeline of tasks for fundraising events. Now, this is not necessarily the best way to display this, in my opinion, but we do have a much more interactive chart here. So this is pretty cool. We also have a visual checklist. So maybe if I just wanted to print this out or just keep this nearby, I can slowly check these things off based on their due dates and what I've actually completed. Here's our email to the communications team. Again, this is all a demo, so it's just at yourcollege.edu, but this is a pretty good looking email to start. It's relevant, it includes the dates that are mentioned in our event, and everything else that was really in our email summary has been included here if it's relevant to the communications team. And last but not least, we have our follow-up email to Cynthia. So thanks again for all your support on the Power of the Guardian initiative. Mira and I are on track to share a basic budget draft by Friday so we can explore the Dean's Contingency Fund. So this all looks pretty good. And from here, I would recommend just continuing to use either AI or your own editing skills to create a better email that's specific to Cynthia or specific to the communications team, or again, just printing off this visual checklist may be really, really helpful. But overall, let's just remind you of what we did here. We took a ton of emails spanning over a few different days and times. We summarized them into progress, setbacks, and next steps. And then we even visualized our next steps. And we also created some of the emails that we need for our communications team as well as our follow-up. So this has probably saved me an immense amount of time. Again, we don't necessarily need to use every single word that ChatGPT has produced for us. We can definitely make this a little bit smaller, make it a little bit longer, whatever you need. But the moral of the story is we've used ChatGPT as a tool to concisely summarize and catch up on our emails, saving us some time and allowing us to actually get these things done instead of spending our time trying to understand what to do next.